Obviously, we're talking about the law of process. Based on the premises that leadership does not develop in a day. Leadership is like investing, it compounds. So it's like that book that I had last week, Today Matters, that he wrote. He goes through like 12 things, he does every day through the process. But becoming a leader is not like investing successfully in the stock market. If your hope is to make a fortune in a day, you're not going to be successful. There are no successful day traders in leadership development. What matters most is what you do day by day over the long haul. So then, in what you have, he gives a couple of suggestions on, he has a club called Maximum Impact Club that you can subscribe to and get monthly mentoring. And we went through, okay, so Robert, I'm going to have you read the 5 phases of leadership.
Do I need to pause?
Pause, yes, read.
I don't know what I don't know.
What's that mean?
Sorry to interrupt,
No problem.
Jason. My mom wanted me to give you the announcements.
That's very simple. If I don't know how to fix a computer, then I just don't know how to fix a computer.
Yeah.
I probably should try fixing the computer if I don't know how to fix the computer.
You just call him.
Yeah.
And then he'll roll his eyes while I talk to you on the phone.
That's correct. Yeah, you probably will do that like this dipstick. I mean, where's he at? This is the 22nd.
And he'll say, did you plug it in? And be like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Plug your computer in the wall. My computer didn't come with a wall.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know. There's this is where you are kind of oblivious. You don't even realize the things that you don't even realize. This is like when you're a kid. You know what I mean? You're ignorant.
Yeah.
Ignorant. Lack of knowledge. Next one, Robert.
I know that I need to know.
All right, Jason, I know that I need to know.
You realize that there's information that you don't have, but you don't know what it is. You're like, I'm missing something here, but I'm not sure
Yep.
what it is I'm missing.
Yep. That's where you start your journey, because you realize you need something, and you got to go get it. And number 3 is I know what I don't know. And that's where you start discovering, okay, now I figured out what's missing. Now I realize what I don't know, and then that's where the process starts. And then as you see there, what is your plan for growth? So in leadership, when we start learning, okay, here's some things that I need to do better at, or here's some things that I can improve upon, here's some things. So we start recognizing those issues. Now what are we going to do about it? And then I know and grow, and it starts to show. You ever had people in your life, I know especially growing up, through teenage years, starting ministry, very early, late teens, early 20s, all through 25, 28, a lot of people would talk about, they'd be like, man, I've really seen growth in you. I've really seen you mature. I've really seen, and you have people in your life that start doing that. That's this concept here, because you've started a process, you're learning, and now it's starting to show to everybody else. And it's like when I think it was Paul told Timothy, he said, here's some things I want you to do. And then he said, so that your profiting may appear to all. In other words, if you start this growth process, it's going to show. It's going to manifest. And then I simply go because I know. So when you develop these in these areas of leadership, and you mature and you grow, when you obtain experience, you obtain the knowledge, then you can begin to start acting and speaking with authority on those particular subjects, because you know what you know, you know how to present it, you know how to walk, you know how to talk, you know how to get it done.
It just becomes natural. I mean, it's fluid. You don't think about it.
Exactly. It's like muscle repetition. It's just.
I was gonna ask, so to speak.
You was gonna ask, so to speak, or you was gonna ask?
I'm going to ask
All right.
because I know I'm going to go here. Could going also mean leaving? Because you're at that point of number 5, but it's at some point along that process of bringing forth whatever it is you're doing, you've hit a brick wall. It's not going to go any further with that either group of people, that person, whatever the case may be.
Yes, it does happen. And I've experienced that, and even recently, I had to make some decisions because of that. Because I knew what I was doing, I knew what I was capable of, and sometimes when you're dealing with certain people, groups of people, organizations, churches, business, whatever it is, a job, you keep hitting your head because you're trying to excel, you're trying to give what you have to the organization, to the person, you're trying to, and because you don't have the footing that they have, because they've set the ceiling.
Okay, I was about
You
to
see what I'm
ask how
saying?
that
They've set the ceiling. So a particular organization, church, business, whatever, okay, you have your leadership. Okay, now this is the executive leadership, and you're here. Okay, what? After you do that, because they're always going to put the limit.
Okay, yeah,
They're either going to go, oh, I see your capabilities,
okay,
or they're going to say, no, we can't do that. No, we can't go there. Or they begin to kind of sabotage what you're trying to do. And sometimes it can be purposeful. Obviously, some people are just manipulative and mean.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they don't even know what they're doing. It's just because their personality, their leadership style, the way they do things, it's just, that's their zone. That's their comfort level. And so you're always going to hit it. And so there comes a time after you hit it so many times, obviously with us being people, believers, it's like, okay, God, I need to know what to do here because I'm living in frustration. So you either need to help me get through this or relieve me. And sometimes I know, so I go. Sometimes it does happen that way, where you just say, look, I appreciate it, but I've kind of hit the ceiling here.
But leaving is not to be looked upon as...
Leaving's not always a bad thing.
as a failure, so to speak.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not to be looked upon as a failure.
Exactly. Many successful people have.
I feel like
left.
that's at times difficult to do.
Oh, it is.
Because you can leave, okay, and move on to the next thing and be accomplishing what you wanted to, but you can still look back and say, that could have been done here too.
Yeah.
If stuff would have just been opened up.
Sure. But you have to find comfort and just an assuredness that that wasn't my responsibility because I tried.
It wasn't your
I did my part. So you have to know that you did your part. And if you would have stayed, you would have kept doing this. Whereas you just said, okay, I'm going to go over here, and you did this. So, but a lot of times too, it's tough because you feel like you leave loved ones behind. Because sometimes because you've worked in the trenches with these people, you've built a bond, you've built a relationship, an appreciation, a love, a commitment, and that commitment and that love is usually why you hit your head so many times.
Yeah.
Because you stayed. Because you stayed committed. And you kept trying. Okay, maybe next time. Okay, maybe next time. You know, you kept trying. But then there comes that point where, especially if, you know, you're being moved to other areas, to other things, you're excelling in other ways. You know, there comes a time that, you know, say, you know, you're over here, because we wear different hats sometimes, right? Sometimes we just wear different hats. We have different roles in life. So over here we keep doing this, but at the same time, over here we're doing this. Well, there comes a point where it's, you know,
and you start feeling.
and so you got to break free, because they're all interconnected somehow. So you got to break free so you can, you know.
How do I describe this? Not so much say leaving, but okay, I'm such and such. Okay, I suppose it still falls maybe under the same concept. There's this over here that's willing to plug you in, and they have got resource capability to push you further. Or at the very least, you know you should go explore it because of what all is attached to it. Okay, that's not over here. What is the chances, so to speak, where that leaving propels this up? Because what you're going to connect to.
It can happen, right.
Okay.
It can happen, but not everything that glitters is gold also. So, you know, again, because, you know, we're people of God, God's got to play the centerpiece role in that. So, the Bible says test and prove, and then hold on to what's good.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's nothing wrong with say, okay, you know, I want to sit down with you and see what you have to offer. I want to sit down with you and see what you're doing. What kind of things are you doing? And how could I plug in? Right? Okay. So you know, and you gotta, it's like Nehemiah when he went to build the wall. He observed first. He actually went out by night.
Yeah.
He just went out by night. He observed. He didn't cause a scene. Didn't drop everything he was doing. He just said, I want to observe what's going on. So he went and he observed. He put himself in the place, in the location, where he could actually experience and see what is truly going on. Because he heard a lot of things, but he wanted to see it for himself. So you go, you experience, you learn. Then, you know, you have to pray for discernment. You have to pray for wisdom. And you just got to say, God, you know, we're at a crossroads here. What is it you would have me to do? Because I've done that before, and God said, just stay put right now. Kind of, you can still do this over here, but just stay put. And I'm like, okay. And it proved itself out. It proved itself out. And then, you know, you face another crossroad. And I remember one time God said, you know, I just didn't have peace, and I knew I needed to wait a little bit. So I'm just waiting, because I felt like God was kind of working on the other end, and some other people had to choose what they were going to do. And then one day I got a release, and God said, basically, it's done. Stay. It'll be okay. So I stayed. And it proved itself out. Well, in the very same situation, again, you know, hitting that, and God said, okay, I've released you. You're okay. And I'm like, was peace about it. Because it was my choosing, but it wasn't me kicking the door open. It was me saying, allowing God to work through the process, being patient, holding on, sticking in there until I felt a peace and a release from God. Because you'll feel it. Because you know, when you're tied to something, you can feel it.
Yeah.
And when you're released from something, you know you broke free. You feel it. It's that way physically and it's that way spiritually. Does that answer?
Yeah.
So,
I think more along the way.
yes, you probably will.
Yeah, probably will.
So, in talking about the law process, one thing we have to ask ourselves if we truly do want to grow, and this is something that I'm still working on. I mean, I'm doing much better than I used to, but I still have to work on it and that is a plan for growth. A plan for growth. A plan to replan and reflect daily. And again, that's where the suggestion is to read, John Maxwell's book, Today Matters. And then, ask yourself, what will I commit to daily? Because and it's the same for everybody. We think, okay, I know for me to grow in my ability and in my knowledge of what I do, I need to do this, 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 and this. But where we come into a problem is it's not a part of our natural pattern, because many times we haven't made a habit of it. And so we've got to try to fit it into our current ever-going life. And so it becomes difficult. So what ends up is at the end of the day, you're tired, you want to go to sleep, and you're like, oh man, I didn't read today. Or I didn't do what was on my list today. I didn't fulfill my personal growth plan, if you will. And then you're like, I'll do it tomorrow. Because it's so easy to put it to the side because we have so many seemingly immediate things we need to take care of. Because those are the things we see now. So if I have to move this cup, well, I can do it now, and I can see that I've accomplished that. But if it's reading for 20 minutes, you don't see the immediate growth. You don't see the immediate effect, because that's something that builds over time. So we're good at doing what's immediate because we get immediate results. But we have a hard time in the disciplines of growth because it's just that. It's a slow, steady growth. It's kind of like physically growing, but it comes natural to us. As long as we take care of our bodies, stay healthy, we will naturally grow. That comes easy because there's not too much effort in that. But spiritually and in our soul, there's a lot of effort because it just doesn't happen naturally. So anyway, so it's got to be purposeful growth. So you have to think, okay, what is my growth plan? And there's for instance, John Maxwell, in his basic idea of a plan, just kind of throwing one out there to say, hey, here's what you could do. That is, read a book a month. Okay, so every month you're reading a book, you're plowing through a book. Listen to at least one audio sermon, CD, teaching, seminar, whatever, a week. And and then go physically to a seminar, conference, something once a year. Purposefully go. And those are just three real basic principles of growth in whatever area of life that you want to grow in. So, and what you do notice is over a period of time, you really start maturing and developing in that area. They say, whoever they is, that if you study a subject, if you truly apply yourself and study a subject for an hour a day, in 5 years, you'd be an expert in that subject. So, yeah. So, the purpose is to help people develop from inside out. Be bigger on the inside than on the outside. You know, that's saying dynamite comes in small packages, you know. Growth from the inside is much more powerful than growth on the outside. You know, you can even look at Paul when he talks about spiritual growth. He says, bodily exercise profits little. It does profit, but it's little compared to spiritual growth. The secret of our success is discovered in our daily agenda. If you want to know people's priorities, if you want to know, if you really want to figure out your, maybe some of your issues, if you will, why you're having problems at whatever it may be, most of the time you can look at your checkbook and your schedule. How you spend your money and how you spend your time. Two of them, one of our most valuable resources in life. How you spend your money, how you spend your time. That'll show you the direction you're headed. You know, there's a lot of people in financial trouble right now that they think that just making more money is going to solve their problem, when it's not. It would actually just make it worse, because it's where they put the money they do have. And time, same thing. Everybody says, I need more time, I need more time. Well, you're not going to get more time. You know what I mean? There's 24 hours in a day, that's it.
Yeah.
7 days in a week, that's it. Period. So, you know, you don't need more time. You need to manage the time you have. And if you fill your days wisely, then you need to rest in the fact that you've done what you can do. And put, follow, again, that's something I'm going to personally be trying to work on, is keeping a
Set schedule.
a set agenda, and the things that I don't accomplish, I can move over, you know. And for me, when it comes to those things, I'm much better with a physical book and a physical pen.
Yeah.
So that I can see it on the page, then I can flip it and, kind of, okay, I didn't accomplish this, so now I'm going to put it here and follow my pattern where I can physically see it in front of me. So, but anyways, that's something I'm going to start working on myself. So that's kind of my journey for this year. So any comments up to this point on this subject so far? Got a few questions I want to ask. So let's look at did you guys, because not to put you on the spot, but if it didn't happen yet, then I don't want to get into this did you, the Law of Process chapter?
Yeah, I've read it.
Okay. It talks about Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Do you remember about it?
Some of it. Here's a little bit of my problem.
Okay.
Okay. As I dove into this book, and then you brought up doing the class on it, so I got to chapter 4 and I put it down.
Right.
For the class to come around, and I
Yes.
dove more into
Now we're catching up.
Murray
Right.
So yeah.
Well, Theodore Roosevelt, it talks about how when he was younger, he was really sickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really weak, really frail.
So
And
he got real in. It was boxing, right?
He did some boxing.
Yeah. He got real into physical activity.
Yeah.
The boxing, for some reason, was what I specifically
Yeah.
recall.
And he took his weaknesses,
Made them strengths.
he recognized them, and he focused on them, and he made them strengths. He was sickly, he was weak, he was frail, he was, made fun of, he was, but he purposed that he would grow and that he would do better. Mine,
I remember, he actually became a decent, a pretty good boxer.
sure,
Took time, but he actually
yeah.
did pretty good.
He became a very physical, rough,
Yeah.
outdoorsman kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, sure did. And then it says this, when they removed him from his bed, this is after he'd passed, they found a book under his pillow.
Yeah.
And it says up to the very last minute, TR was still striving to learn and improve himself. He was still practicing the law of process. So, I'm going to ask this question, and if there's silence for a couple seconds, we'll move on. But if you want to answer, if you have some thoughts, what are you doing right now to build yourself into a great leader?
I started reading, trying to read a little bit and refresh, the chapters that we went through. But,
Yeah.
sometimes it slips away. And,
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to get out of the mold if you don't create a rut.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
trying to change your daily routine isn't easy. I try to do it in the morning when I get up. So,
Yeah.
we start out fresh,
Yeah.
But,
It is hard. I told, when I was youth pastor, I'd tell the young people, as far as your daily spiritual disciplines, I said, start now. I said, because trust me, it does not get easier. It does not get easier. Because life piles on, responsibilities pile on, and like you said, it's hard. It is hard to create that pattern on those things that you need to do. So
I'm I want to say reading, but this is something I was a reader clear back in high school, so reading has not been like
Comes
some
natural.
dreadful thing.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I gotta read,
right.
What has developed over the years, though, is what I'm reading. I want more. I've sought out more challenging literature. Now,
Right.
when I say reading, I'm very I'm reading specifically Christian nonfiction, and that's what I dove into.
Right.
After I got saved and stuff, I still hung around a little bit. I was into reading Star Wars novels, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was. I was hooked on Star Wars novels. And I slowly began putting that down because I just sort of developed this attitude of, I don't know, what's the point? Other than the little clique I hang with and they're reading the same books, other than us talking about it, I'm not going to see these people after I graduate more often, so what's the point of this? So I switched my reading taste, and I'm at a point now, and I probably have been, prayer really, gosh, this will probably sound like a broken record. Prayer really, personal prayer time really excelled this, and that's what I'm reading.
Uh-huh.
I like books, and I can kind
Make
of
you
feel
think.
right away in the first few chapters.
Right.
Okay, is this going to be just kind of not necessarily a book that I'll get absolutely nothing out of, but is this really just giving me information, or is this challenging my spiritual makeup
Right.
to grow
Right.
more?
Right.
Because I don't, I'm not trying to make this like an insult or anything, but I didn't want to wait till I'm 40, 50, 60 years old to start.
Come on, bro.
To start.
Man, what's he
Okay,
saying?
I gotta be honest here. Honesty's a good thing. I didn't want to wait till I hit that age to sit and decide.
To start.
I want to be spiritually mature now.
Right.
Because I'm like, it's too late by then. I've got too many peers my own age, both in the church culture, not only just in the church culture, but in society.
Right.
In the ministry I've started in, with the people that are getting locked up are getting younger and younger and younger. There was not only just sort of a personal one of not wanting to put it off till I hit,
Sure.
an older man's age, but there was also this sort of feeling of I ain't got time to.
Right.
I don't. There's a need for it now.
Right.
We lack solid spiritual leadership out of my age group. At least I personally feel that way. Badly. There's pockets.
Right.
There's pockets of ministries here and there where that seems to be going on, but it's not.
It's not the
There's
norm.
just little there. They're just little hubs, and I'm not saying people are leaving those places and going into maybe back to their home churches or whatever, but
Right.
it's difficult to. I have a feeling that if I went and spent a year, say, interning at the International House of Prayer in Kansas City, or if I went, I don't know, to the Ramp or to Bethel or California and spending a year interning there, I would have a hard time wanting to leave and even maybe come back here. I have a hunch about that. There would be a lot more people there my age that are craving the same thing that I'm craving. So why would I really want to come back more into an older environment and try to either bring people more my age in, which may or may not happen.
Well, what would be the purpose? What is always the purpose of training and growing?
So you can train
To serve.
so you can serve others. Yeah.
So there is a lot of, it's like the conference I went to recently, the Colson Fellows Conference, Wilberforce Weekend.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there and just soaking it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I would love to be surrounded by this every day.
Yeah.
But then, so I started pondering this, and I thought, what is the purpose of this moment? The purpose of this moment is to receive, to grow, and then to go and deliver it. You know what I mean? It's not to stay in the corral. So there are these training centers, if you will, that there are people like, say, IHOP, for instance. There are people there that is their home, that's their home church, that is their call to be a training center, so to speak. But their purpose is not to gather and keep. The purpose is to gather and send out.
It's difficult. What you said is what makes it difficult.
Because we always have to realize, here's the thing, at those places, like-minded people are gathering in the same place.
Yeah.
So it's like the upper room.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the upper room because everybody's there, the same place, the same purpose. So there's
The saturation.
It's energizing.
Yeah.
It's energizing. But just like the upper room, that they weren't meant to stay in the upper room. They were meant to gather in the upper room and then be witnesses to the othermost parts of it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
to put it in a natural perspective, if you look at a wildfire, how does a wildfire spread? With wind.
With wind,
Wind has to push a wildfire.
Yeah.
So something has to push. I mean, if the fire just sits there, it'll go out. It needs
Yeah.
something to push it.
Yeah, yeah, yep. So, and with you, you know, one thing I can see, just because I've been around you, is, and it's always what happened to me, because I want to go, go, go. I want to see growth constantly. I want to see movement constantly. But sometimes God will go, and you're like, oh, this is a great ride. You know, your hair's blowing back. You're like, yeah. And then it stops. And then because it stopped, you think, okay, now I got to look for the next ride. When God's saying, no, you stopped here for a reason. It's because I want you right here.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to get on the next ride, he'll say, okay, now let's go for another ride. You know?
I was listening to this message of Brad Custer's, and he, I sensed him, he was kind of talking about the same thing, like how he was being approached by people in their area, not just their area.
Oh.
I took it even outside their area. It was primarily pastors, and he was getting asked, you know, why they've sort of, quote, slowed down. You know, you guys were bringing it, you were having these conferences, and you were bringing people in from all over the state of Kentucky, even up into Indiana and Tennessee, et cetera, and you guys have sort of just taken a, not necessarily a step back, but you've stopped pushing, okay, and is there something wrong? That's sort of the first thought in our church society, is something's wrong, or, you know, I don't know, you screwed up or something.
Yeah.
And he's just, and you know, he's talked about how at first it played with his mind, because he's got a real, you can listen to his messages, he's got a real evangelism type of spirit to him. But he brought up how God has his moments where he wants you to just stop and build a fire.
Sure.
And sort of just rest.
Some of
A
God's,
moment of rest. You got to rekindle that fire before
the most intimate moments with Jesus that the disciples had was stopped and set around a fire.
Yeah.
That's where that whole, well, guys, who do men say that I am? You know what I mean?
That's what he had
Those are those
going on
powerful
in the
moments. They weren't out healing. They weren't out shaking the bushes. They weren't out doing these great things. They stopped. They were at rest. They were just talking, sitting around the fire.
And
Sometimes you have to disengage.
yeah. In my devotional
re-engage.
Bible, I have, you know, it starts the year in the New Testament and the Gospels. It's the first 4 books you know. It goes through.
Sure.
It goes through the books one at a time in order.
Right.
And one of the things I picked up this year that I kind of knew, but I felt the Holy Spirit zooming in on, putting more of an emphasis. You need to pay attention to this. Is that practically every time, and I'm up in the Gospel of Luke right now at this point. Every time that they had a mass manifestation, or Jesus did, of healings and teachings and driving out demonic spirits and you know, et cetera, he always retired afterwards and went to the Father in prayer. And in some parts of the Scripture, it said that he would spend long times just in the Father in solitude. It's been in the Scripture specifically state solitude. And that's no coincidence. That's not just Jesus was bored or something, so he went and talked to God the Father for a while.
Right.
No, I feel, I'm sitting here, what I've been gathering from that was there was such a, well, what you said, a mass pouring out and manifestation of,
Like a void was created.
yeah.
Refilled.
Yeah, he had to go get refilled,
Sure.
had to get that fire
Exactly.
rekindled.
Exactly. So as we close, some thoughts to think about. You can write down if you want so that we can get a step ahead. Next week, we'll go ahead and we will have class next week, and then we'll probably take 1 week off if you want to. It's kind of what Julie was wanting to try to, or she's breaking today, but she wanted to take some breaks so that, because she really enjoys women's class, things like that. So I don't think that's a big deal. But next week we'll look at the law of navigation. So jump into that. And some questions to ask yourself is, one, where are you going? How are you getting there? And do you have a compass? Where are you going? How are you getting there? And do you have a compass? And then we're going to, we will look at that next week. Be thinking about some goals. Okay. Well, possibly that you foresee some just simple goals. Maybe. So, anyone can steer the ship, but a leader can chart the course.